one of the most asked questions that we get is how to be more consistent. And like I said, I'm going to try to answer your questions to help you in the game and in real life. Consistency is one of the hardest things, I think, in bowling, and it's also one of the most important things, and I guess that's why it's so hard. But if you want to score and you want to score more often, consistency is where it's at. Something I teach the kids that I work with a lot is knowing where you are on the lane, and that's very true in the game. My thing is I tell the kids, whenever you get up on the lanes, look at your feet, see where you're starting at. If you're not starting in the same place every time, you're not going to be consistent. The next thing I tell them to do is find that spot on the lane, and that is your target, and you have to keep your eyes fixed on that target. If anybody rides a motorcycle, or have you ever been out, they teach you when you're riding, your bike's going to go where you look. So if you look left, your bike's going to go left. If you look right, your bike's going to go right. It's the same thing with bowling. You're going to throw the ball where you look. So if you want to become more consistent, pick a spot on the lane that you can hit religiously, I like to call it. Every time that you go up and throw the ball, you can hit that target. A lot of it has to do with your approach. So you can't just start bowling necessarily and just hit your mark all the time. It's a lot of muscle memory and things like that. If you're having trouble targeting, a lot of people, when they bowl, they look at the pins. Some people look at the arrows. Some people look at the foul line. What I like to do is in my personal bowling game, I use the dots that are in between the foul line and the arrows. And the reason I do that is it's closer to me. Growing up, I used to watch a show with Bozo the Clown. And I know I'm dating myself. I grew up in the 80s. But if anybody's around my age and ever saw Bozo the Clown, they had a little game where they had 5 sand buckets in a line. And the kids had to start with throwing a ping pong ball in the closest bucket, and then throwing it bucket and bucket and bucket after that. And if they make it in the furthest bucket away, they win the big prize. Well, if you ever watch the show, you could always see the kids could always make the first, second, sometimes the third bucket, and after that it started to get a lot harder for them to stay consistent hitting that. And the reason is because it's a lot closer to you. It's easier to focus on. It's easier to hit. So with bowling, when you're targeting and you're trying to find that target and find the right shot, it's easier to pick a spot as closest to you when you release the ball as you possibly can. So I know lots of professional bowlers, when you talk to them, some of them actually look at the foul line right at their feet for their spot to where they push the ball. I know, talking with Belmo and seeing some of his displays, a lot of times you'll see him lofting the gutter caps. You got to pick a target that's out past the arrows a lot of times to hit those marks. So again, with the consistency, your biggest thing is check your feet on the lanes. One thing you'll notice in the app, in the bowling game, if you say you start out on board 19 and you throw a couple frames, 5, 6, 7 frames, make sure you're checking your feet, because if you look down, sometimes you'll be on board 18, board 20. It depends on your swipe method on the screen. As you start swiping and keep swiping, you might have to keep adjusting your feet, and you might be missing some pins or missing the pocket because you're a board or two off of where your best strike was. Now, going into being consistent again with targeting, if you're getting real close to the pocket, but you're leaving a lot of 7 pins or 10 pins, possibly leaving 8s or 9s, like you're hitting the pocket, but you're just not getting the carry you want, chances are you're targeting, or your feet are a board or 2 off. And one way to think about it with bowling is you take the foul line and the pins, and you draw an imaginary line between the foul line and the pins. If your ball at release you're hitting your target and you're consistently missing the pocket to the right for a right-hander or to the left for a left-hander. Move the way that your ball is going. So if you're missing left as a left-hander, you want to move your feet left. If you're missing the pocket right as a right-hander, you need to move your feet right. And it's vice versa. If you're crossing over the pocket to the Brooklyn or Jersey side, whichever way your ball is finishing at the lane, move your feet the same direction. If you were to take a pencil and put it on a table, a hard surface, I do this with my kids, and you turn the pencil from the center pivot point, and you pretend that that's the way the track of the ball is going. If you move the eraser end to the left, the point of the pencil is going to go to the right. Okay? Think of that as your line as you're bowling. So if your ball is not finishing to the pocket, move a board or two to the way the ball's rolling. If you're leaving a lot of 10 pins, people ask me about that. Try it in the app sometime. If you're standing on board 19 and you're leaving a bunch of 10s, move your feet to board 18 and hit the same mark, same roll with the ball. And I guarantee you'll start to make a lot more of those on the strikes.